Alright guys, today we are going to be troubleshooting a Dell Inspiron M5030 model laptop. It's an old Windows 7 machine, but it's a pretty good machine and the client wants me to take a look at it. So first thing you want to do, remove the battery. Just slide these two tabs over here and you have a series of screws you have to remove. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You also want to make absolutely sure when you're taking these screws out, and believe me, I have done this 8 billion times and I should follow my own advice more often, but if you take the screws out and the screws are of different sizes, then you run the risk of putting the wrong screw in the wrong place when you reassemble the machine. That is generally very bad. So right now, so far, all the screws are the same size, except this one here, little tiny screw. That is where, looks like possibly the CD drive lock. This one is smaller than the rest of them. So I'm gonna set that aside for a second. If the rest of the screws are the same size, then I only have to remember where that one was. But turns out there's another one same size. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lay out the screws on my desk in a pattern similar to the actual pattern of the computer. So I'm going to lay them out on my desk basically in the same pattern that I removed them, and that way it's just a quick visual cue when I'm putting it back together that I put the right screws in the right holes. And after you've put a long screw in a short hole one time and it shorts out the hardware, trust me, you'll never do it again. So, but in a lot of laptops, all the outer screws are the same, in which case you can just take them all out and put them in a pile. But you never want to assume, and so I am not going to do that. And another good idea, in addition to laying out the screws in the order that you remove them, is after you do that, take 2 seconds and take a photograph of the pattern of screws that you removed, because sometimes you bump your desk and screws go flying all over the place, and it's just generally a good idea just to have a backup to your backup. In that way, no matter what happens, you'll at least know where the screws go. It looks like a couple screws are missing, so that tells me that somebody at some point has been inside this computer. Now, whether that's relevant to the problem, don't know at this point. However, you never want to be too careful. I've laid out the screws in the pattern that I was able to remove them. Now I can begin the disassembly process. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the CD DVD drive. Just put a little screw in here, screwdriver in here, kind of pry it. This little plastic bezel that's on here sometimes pops off. It's no big deal because it's meant to pop on and right back off. So now I do know on the Dell Inspiron that in order to get the bottom case completely removed, you have to actually take the keyboard off, because there are connections underneath the keyboard that secure that bottom case. So the trick is going to be, let me see if I can show you here. There are usually 4 tabs on most Dells. If you look, there's one, there's another, and there's another one in here. Looks like right there. So 3 in this case that pop that keyboard out. So what you just want to do is gently take a flathead screwdriver. You don't have to muscle it, just have to put it in there and pop that tab and don't get the keys in the process, because once those keys come off, they're impossible to replace. But you'll see once you do that, you can basically release that. There's the 4. Okay, so there is 4 on this one. So once you get all the tabs removed, I generally go towards the middle. And as you can see, this side is completely clear. I'm going to go back here with my left hand while I'm pulling up on this side and try to free that. Usually they come out a lot easier than this. A lot of times you can just grab it behind here and pull it out, but this one's wanting to be difficult. And usually, because a screw is buried deep down inside, which in this case, there is another one way down here. So that's why the keyboard was giving me difficulty. So I'm gonna remove that. My little magnetic screwdriver, I'm gonna play operation. Now the keyboard should come right out, just like so. There is what's called a ZIF connector right here. You just gently lift up on this. You can use a metal screwdriver or whatever, it's fine. Just gotta be super careful. You don't wanna break this black tab. And once you take that, slide the keyboard right out, and there you go. Now in this case, we were trying to remove the CD drive and it wasn't coming out. And now we know why, because once you get inside the machine, right here's the CD drive, and there's a bracket right there with a screw attached to it. We're gonna take this screw right here and remove it. I'm gonna set that aside, and now, look at that. Boom. So that's what was holding the CD drive in. So now I've got the main screws out. There is a couple connectors here. There is this connector right here that probably goes, I believe, to the touchpad. And then this connector here, which looks like it comes, I don't know if that's a main power connector or whatever, but either way, those got to come out. Okay, so we're going to just gently lift up on this one, pull that out. And this one, this has I always call them vertical ziffs. You have to kind of lift it up like that, and then the cable just lifts right out. So it's like a regular ZIF connector, except it's vertical instead of horizontal. So now we should be able to take this machine apart relatively simply. Okay. Now, as you can see, once you take all that stuff out, this top cover is already wanting to come out. So I take my top cover removal tool, just go around the edges a little bit, loosen it up, like so. And yes, these Inspiron M series and N series are not like the old Inspirons. These things, you have to, the old ones, you could just, there was a little panel, you just remove the panel, hard drive popped right out, you could pop a new drive in, new memory, all that stuff, and it was super easy. But the M series and N series require you to take the whole thing apart just to get to the hard drive. So there we go. Now there is one other, there is one other connector right here, another vertical ZIF connector. Just lift up on that gently. You don't have to just do anything but put eggshell pressure on it. Once it's released, the cable slides right out, and now your top cover is removed. And the first order of business was to get the client's hard drive so I can get the data off of it. So that's what I'm going to do first. You should just be able to wiggle this out. Here's the connector on the main board. Just push that way, slide it out. I don't see any screws, so wiggle it out, boom, there it is right there. So hard drive is out. The motherboard has a couple screws that need to be removed. One is up here towards the top, right next to the fan. There's another right here, just next to the network port and right behind the video connector. Just remove those 2 screws. And the motherboard lifts right out. Now there is a couple places where there is a plastic piece that goes through here to act as a guide, so you need to be aware of that. There you go, just wiggle it and it slides right out. Now if you want to actually replace the board, you need to remove this Wi-Fi cable right here. Okay, it's connected to the Wi-Fi adapter, and also you've got the power supply for the fan right here, and you also have the video connector cable that's right here. You just pulls that right out. And then if you want to disassemble the screen, there is 1 screw right here. There is another screw right here. Those release the hinges, and then this whole display comes right up. So that's all there is to replacing pretty much any part on this system, and certainly something you could do yourself as long as you were careful and didn't actually touch the motherboard and create a static discharge or anything like that. Try to touch it around the edges if you can. Generally the edges are perfectly safe, but you just don't want to put your fingers all over these circuits because oil residue can create electric spark there, and that is bad. So obviously when you're removing motherboard, you want to be very careful. Try to use the edges if possible. Try to keep your hands off the actual board itself. But other than that, it is super simple. So in this case of a hard drive replacement, you would just put the new drive in, lay it down, slide it in, boom, it's connected. And as before, just reverse the process with the top cover. You've got your connector here, and your connector here. Pop it back in, slide everything in, and you are ready to rock and roll. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you. If you found it useful, I'd appreciate if you click that like button for me. And if I earned your subscription today, that'd be awesome. It helps keep my channel running and helps me keep making great videos for you. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks so much.